It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Welcome everyone, I'm Sam Lesante, and welcome to our pre-election show. I've said this many times, many times. Elections have their consequences. And May 16th is very important, particularly in northeastern Pennsylvania. Today we have a distinguished panel. And we hope that at the end of the show, you'll have a better idea of what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So let me welcome the panel. Rick Morelli, no stranger to the panel. He is the former chairman of the Luzerne County Council and also former president of the Hazleton Area School District. Charles McElwee is the editor of Real Clear Pennsylvania. Go to their website. He has terrific work. Mike DeCosmo, no stranger. He was the former Democrat Luzerne County chairman, probably one of the better ones we ever had. That's only my personal opinion. And also he was involved in city council and also on the school board. And we're happy to have Lauren Sacco here, who is a former councilwoman in Hazleton, did a tremendous job. And hopefully we'll have a good understanding of what's happening. Folks, thanks for joining us. Interesting election coming up. Of course, we have to fill Mike in what's going on. He's a little slow, but we'll get him up to tack. Let's start with the. I said about elections having consequences. Okay, we see what's happening today, and we put people in office, and I think local elections are extremely important. So let's have some comments on. We have the Hazleton mayoral race. We have Jeff Cassad, who's seeking his third term. We have Bobby Avec, who is running against Vinnie Gastro, and independent Cindy DeLuca. That'll be a write-in in November. But let's talk about that. Your comments, about a minute or two. Rick?
Well, again, you're right with elections having consequences, and this is the time for the people to get out there and make things happen. With regards to the city of Hazleton, I think it's fair to say that the city of Hazleton's changed dramatically over the years. The demographics have changed, the candidates have changed, and so as an outsider watching Hazleton politics, I've never seen so many signs and different candidates here. There are obviously a lot of Latinos who live in Hazleton, and the question has been, when is the time going to happen when a Latino is going to get on council or become a mayor? And, you know, based off the signs, there are going to be a lot of people. The question is how many people are going to go vote and who are they going to vote for? So I think there's some good candidates. I would really love to see some debates with some of these individuals, because you just don't know who they are. It's easy to go say you're going to change the city, you're going to find money, but how are you going to do it? And that's what I'd be interested in if I was a voter in Hazleton.
Charles?
Well, when it comes to politics right now, there's a lot of the anger that we see is driven by frustration with leadership, whether it's national, state, or local. And when you look at local, I mean, Rick just mapped out, I mean, the state of Hazleton, and think about it. I mean, the Wall Street Journal earlier this year found that Luzerne County, among larger counties in America, experienced more demographic change than any county of its size in America in the 21st century, in the first 2 decades. That was driven by 6 square miles on the plateau in southern Luzerne County, the city of Hazleton. So you have the first 20 years of this dramatic demographic change, and now we're seeing dramatic economic change. 25 million square feet of warehousing slated around this plateau. And our local leaders prepared for this transformation, because the area will be unrecognizable in the coming years with this warehousing growth. So whoever prevails in City Hall, in the years ahead, our local elected leaders have to respond to the demographic transformation that has already happened, but in addition to that, what is ahead.
Michael?
Great points made by both my colleagues here, Sam. Unique election, and unique election different, and I guess I'm a little bit of a dinosaur when it comes to politics. When I was running, I'd be on Channel 13, I'd be in a standard speaker. This election seems to be driven a lot by Facebook anymore, Sammy. And unfortunately, because of that, and Lauren knows probably better than anyone sitting up here, I think you're seeing maybe the dirtiest local election I've ever seen in all my years in politics. You could throw anything out there and it seems to be sticking in some cases, And I think a lot of good people are being slandered, unfortunately, and I think that's what happens in trying to get people to run for local election, because you never know what's going to be said. You have to worry about safety of your family, your business reputation. It's not like it used to be, Sammy, but the demographic that both Rick and Charlie were talking about, I really think this is an election, and the time has come that it's almost like a Latino versus Anglo, like whether it's talking about school board, whether you're talking about, city council or the mayor's office. And I think voter turnout, are the Latinos who have the majority of the population right now going to register, get out to vote, or is there such a division in their community, which traditionally there has been, is it going to change this election?
Lauren, you sat there as a city councilman, woman. Your thoughts?
Sometimes our community, honestly, can't get out of its own way. We have very good people in elected positions inside Hazleton and the surrounding communities, and there has been a lot of progress that has been made. We have a good council on there right now, but I'm a little biased when I say, since I stepped down, I think we lack a backbone. My husband gets upset when I say that, but this community is a place where there are good people that are the heartbeat inside the community. And Jeff and the administration has done a great job, and a good person coming up behind him that I think is going to give a run for his money is Biani Castro. He's a young, intelligent man, hungry, go-getter, and it's going to be very, very tight. Our leadership has been strong, but our leadership lacks a little bit in making sure we put a strong stance for people like what I was in with my position. Good people are turning away from really being put in the middle when you don't have the support behind it. But this election has been cutthroat, and people are using Facebook and social platforms to make a stance for, I'm here for the public, when it's really, I'm here for myself and the 2 minutes of fame. So you're really no stranger to that, but this election has turned out to be a little bit more of a clown show than I think more on the upswing of what it should be.
What fascinates me, and I guess I get a big kick out of seeing all the signs, and I can't understand, you could put a zillion signs out there, but if you don't know the people, who they are, if you don't know what they can present, Rick and I were talking before the show about the council, Luzerne County Council. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are people who are going to control your lives. Yep. Okay, in Hazleton, the sad part is the impression that I'm hearing. I walked the mall here and I talked to people, and I asked them, what do you think of Hazleton? Last week I talked to about 13 people after I taped the show here. 12 of them said it's a disgrace. 12 of them said crime. 12 of them said it's not the town we used to know. Now, I don't know how to interpret that. How would you interpret that, Lauren?
I'll be honest, sometimes I think people don't really look at the glass half full. They look at it half empty. Is crime here? Yes. Are potholes here? Yes. Are things upside down? Yes. But it's not just our zip code. The entire country right now is upside down. And there are good people doing good things, trying to do the right thing, but it also demands community support. The people want, but the people do not participate. So on different challenges of crime, we have all these different boards and all these different things, from the township to Sugarloaf, where people are literally saying, come out, give your opinion. They like to throw a lot of stones, but people don't like to get involved and give some solutions.
We know about Jeff Cassett. He's been the mayor. We know about Bob Yevok. He, travels around. I don't know about Castro. Okay, I don't know. I mean, they tell me he's a businessman, but I'm bringing this up for a reason. We have an opportunity here at this channel, which is a local channel, for someone to come on and tell me why, and tell the viewers why they want them to elect them to their office. I see a lot of signs for Castro, but I don't know the guy. I don't know what he's offers to bring. I have no idea what he's going to say. I have none whatsoever. He could be the greatest guy since sliced. I don't know. What do you think about that, Rick?
Well, as we said before, some people want to hide. Maybe I call that the Joe Biden campaign. You don't go in the basement.
Mike just perked up.
Some people, we know how that is, Mike. But no, the truth is some people do. But the fact is that as a voter, I want to know who they are. Now, locally, I know these people. I don't need to see them. I know what they're about. I can make that decision. Again, using county council, if you want to represent the county and you want to represent Southern Luzerne County, you should be down here. You should put your name out there. You should tell them what I'm for. If I'm a Republican or a Democrat, here's how I'm different and here's what I'm for. So I'm not promoting to say, hey, come on the show. I'm just saying it makes sense.
I'm promoting
it. makes sense.
Jack Monday and I had this discussion the other day. Mike and I had a discussion on Friday. The thing is that, yes, we do sell advertisement. There's no question about that. But however, if you're going to run for an office and you want someone to vote for you, you know that you have to make an investment to let people know what you're all about. I don't care. When I say, signs out, that frustrates me. Mr. Burke, who was running for judge in Schuylkill County, he said he was to an event. He has a lot of signs out. He was on the show, and he says, Sam, he said, I was there and I felt good until the lady says, look, I saw your sign, but I don't even know who the hell you are. Okay. And he said, so I called him up after the show, or I talked to someone and said, well, at least I was able to explain and tell people my background, what I want to bring to the table, all right? You got Luzerne County Council, which we'll talk about. Very important in the Luzerne County, very important. We've had a zoo there in the last couple of years. It's been a zoo. It's been a disgrace to our county of what's happening there. Mike or Rick, it wasn't like we thought, I thought it would be a lot different, when you were there and Pedri, and now I see a complete...
Well, I think the key is right there is how much, it's not the government, it's how different something could be when people change. And if you don't know those people and they don't understand what government's about, because most people who run don't even understand what they're getting involved in until they get there.
Right,
Trust me when I tell you.
Yep.
So then they're blind, and then all of a sudden, most of these people on council right now never even read the charter. And one thing I'm very proud with the charter is it's taken the politics out of elected people. And now all of a sudden they want to come in and they want to hire people. And that was the whole part of the charter, keep politics out of it. So, people need to understand why they're running. People need to understand why they're running. And that's why you need to listen to them and see them other than just signs.
How do you fix that, Charles?
Well, a lot of what we're dealing with locally, Sam, is a story of a parallel universe. So we have in Hazleton a Hispanic majority population, and they have their own civic infrastructure, their own organizations, media sources, and then you have the native population with their own civic infrastructure, media sources. And this race, let's say it is between Cassatt and Castro. It will be fascinating to watch because it's really a story of residents living in these half-double homes on South Pine Street or on Locust Street that were once inhabited by immigrants from Calabria or Eastern Europe that worked in the mines. So fast forward, Dominican immigrants or Dominican Americans, second or third generation, employed by the warehousing logistics that is now located where the mining industry once operated. And you're seeing a repeat of history in the sense of, when you look back to the city, Jimmy Costello was the first Catholic mayor of Hazleton in 1937, elected by those second, third generation Catholics in the city, immigrants in the city. Fast forward, Tom Caporell, mid-50s, Italian American, elected. And the day will come, it may not be this race, but it could be close, as Lauren noted, but the day will come when City Hall will be a Hispanic, it'll be run by Hispanic natives or elected officials from Hazleton, and that will be fascinating to watch. So there's just a lot of complex dynamics amid so much change at the national level. We're seeing change at the local level.
What should the people know, Mike? You see, you're in the community all the time. As a tax collector, believe me, you hear a lot of stories. I can imagine the stories you hear as a Hazleton Township tax collector. What should people be looking for when they're looking to elect a local? For local elections?
Well, 2 points, Sammy. First of all, what they should be looking for, I think, in the county level, is some representation from Hazleton. We had Rick there, we had Bobby Schnee. We have no representation from Hazleton. We have 3 people running this time, and we'll see if the people from this area get out and vote. So I think Hazleton should definitely have a voice. Rick and I, when we had the Inside Scoop, used to have this debate, but with this at-large voting, it seems like the minute someone sees Hazleton or Hazel Township as a candidate, people in the upper end just don't pull our lever. So you just saw what happened with these grant applications. The politics that was played and how many times they were changed to county money because most of the money went to the upper end. So, I think with our own self-interest, we should worry in a county level that we do have representation. Secondly, Sammy, and I think you said it best, you just want representation, people you could talk to. When I was first elected tax collector, most satisfying public office I've ever held in my life. You talk to the people on the street and you find out what they're concerned about. You know, I could tell you what they're concerned about. They just got their city tax bill, well, in our case, county tax bill and township. They didn't care about the township tax bill. They know we plow their snow. They know we fix their streets. They say, what do we get from the county? You know, really, we get nothing. We don't even have one person in this community on the board. So I think it's the old story, you know, just representation. If I'm paying for something, I just want some representation.
What should we look for in the city council? Lauren?
When you're, in my opinion, when you're looking for someone to vote and put into that elected seat, you got to look at the integrity and the character of the person. It does go right through me when election time comes and you see people snapping pictures. I'm at Boy Scouts, I'm at Cub Scouts. These things function all year long and you're nowhere to be found. So when you're looking for someone to fill that seat, you got to look at the full picture, not just what Facebook shows you and what's the 2-minute fun part. There's good people on there, and there's good people living in this community and good people running to fill the shoes of that, and it's going to be very interesting. And I hope the person that does take the seat is a hungry go-getter looking to push things forward.
I hope you're right. Folks, this is our pre-election show. Get to know the candidates, even though some of them avoid us coming. I think the best scoop is for them to come on and just say, look, here I am, this is what I'm all about, and then you decide. We'll take a break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks, and thank you for making the Sam Lesante Show the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. Taken from the scientific poll by Susquehanna Polling and Research, they were voted the #1 polling company in the United States. And I also would like to thank some of our key sponsors. I want to thank Hazleton Eye Specialist. They're also Pottsville Eye Specialists, and also Nanticoke and Strasburg. Boyer's grocery store, it's a fabulous space to go to. I want to thank Alexis Valvello for being a sponsor, in Sacco and Twisted Roots Chiropractic. We have on the show today, no stranger to all of you in northeastern Pennsylvania, Rick Morelli, Charles McElwee, Mike DeCosmo, and joining us, Lauren Sacco. School board, very effective for getting things accomplished in the district. Particularly, I'm looking at here some of the key issues that we are looking at in non-English speaking for newcomers. Should a new field house be built? We need maybe a new school. A lot of major decisions to be made. Do we have qualified people to be there? Let me tell you who's on there now. Incumbent Tony Bonomo, Ellen McBride, Jackie Scarcella, and Joseph Zeller. And we have 3 retired school principals, Joseph Barletta, Carol McCula, and Jim Chapman. And also there are other former board members running: Carmela Yankovich, Dr. Robert Childs, and his wife, Mrs. Childs, Peter Bard, and Tara Ferraris, I hope I'm saying that, and Daniel Jorge. Let's start with you, Charles, in terms of how very important, extremely important, is to have these school board members being qualified, because they'll be leading our educational system.
I mean, Sam, you can make the argument that it's the most important elected office in the greater Hazleton area because it's a top employer in the area, and these elected leaders are dealing with one of the largest school districts in Pennsylvania, and a school district that is experiencing dramatic population growth, demographic change, and a lot of challenges that come with so much change that has occurred in a short span of time. So it's hugely important, Sam, and they have a lot to confront. I mean, for perspective, in the 90s, there was one ESL teacher in the school district, and fast forward, you need to deal with all the change that has occurred there. So, yeah, you can't understate the importance of this office.
Michael.
Sam, I agree with what Charles said, and you have to examine the candidates, and the bios were important on each, and not to go through every single candidate, Sammy, I think you did a good job, but there's one team running together as 6. And I know for a fact when they got together, they said in their theme, their mailers, qualifications matter. You know, you have Ellen McBride, a former school nurse. You have Joe Zeller, former state trooper. You have former school superintendent in Carol McCuda down Tamaqua, 2 former school principals, and Jim Chapman and Joe Barletta. And lastly, you have Pete Bard, who's a business manager in the district. You have 6 people understand the intricacies of how a school board should run. And that's why they got together. You talk about the finances, the budget, crucially important, but you look at people like Joe Zeller on that ticket and Ella McBride. I don't think anyone who has a child in school is more concerned about school safety right now. You're talking a retired state trooper, you're talking about a lifelong nurse. These are important issues to people who have kids in school. I mean, obviously the finances, you have to have someone who has a budget. And what I love about the candidates who run for the school board who've been in the trenches. As a former college professor, we always used to have fights with the administration because we'd be in the classroom, every day knowing what went on. But up in the ivory tower, they really did, but they'd want to issue directives. Well, the fact of the matter is, I love people who work their way and know what the problems are in the district. Tony Bonomo, Jackie Scarcella, both incumbents, both multiple terms. Tony, I think 4 terms, Jackie 2 terms. Dr. Childs was there before and is bringing his wife on that ticket. But the fact of the matter is there are a lot of different candidates running this time.
You make an excellent point. And the point is, when I was the chairman of the board of the college, we needed input because we hired a president. That's why we hired him. And I don't want to do his job because that's why you hire a president, so you have a superintendent. However, you have people that have input that are in the as you say, the trenches, that can bring this stuff to the people in the ivory tower. That's a very interesting point, and that's why I think it's very. If you talk about qualifications, why it's extremely important to have school board members that know what's going on. You just presented that. As a wife and mother, what were your thoughts, Lauren?
We are actually at the point, because Avery will be turning 4. This is something that literally keeps me up at night because school size is a huge one, school security is a huge one, and I think Mike hit the nail on the head. There is a stacked deck out there where, as a parent and from this perspective, qualifications do matter. Sometimes I think on the parental side of things, there needs to be a little more work ethic involved in students, like maybe a work program where kids are taught a little more hands-on and a little more common sense. Kids come to me right now when I used to deliver with Frankie's for pizza. They could not count change. They could not tell time. If you say come 9:45, they kind of look at you cross-eyed. But these students are all graduates and they're on to the next phase of life. So there's a lot of, common sense I'm starting to realize is not really common. So I think the Band-Aid needs to be ripped off a little bit and go back to a little bit more common core roots. But there is a very good qualified panel where qualifications matter.
Boy, you were so right. Uncle Rick.
Yeah, so as a father, my number one thing that I look at now is securing the safety of the schools, and that's the most important thing to me. I think everything else, as a parent, I can manage around. Been on the school board a long time ago. It's not an easy job. A lot of people could say make changes. I think this board has done a pretty good job. I think there's been some bumps, but I think as a whole, they've done a pretty good job, and I think Mike hit ahead on the diversity. And what I look for is on boards, I just look for people who could work together. If you get 1 or 2 people who just want to come and make issues, that's where it throws everything off. There's a lot of fighting. You don't accomplish anything. I'm looking for people who could work together, argue a little bit, debate, vote against each other. But when you look at our district, and it has its challenges, but it kind of goes back to what Charles mentioned before. You look at the warehouses, all the people coming in. It's not created by the school board. Those are things you have to deal with. But I'll make a point. Go around to all other school districts. Go to schools and see how these schools look. You go to any one of our schools, they're in tip-top shape. They're in great shape. Every single one of them. When you look at the taxes that you pay in the Luzerne County, I believe I'm correct if it didn't change. They're the lowest. It's the lowest tax base in all of them. So you got to take the good and the bad. Be realistic. Are taxes going to go up here and there? Absolutely. Is it okay to debate on whether you want turf or if you wanted more classrooms or more teachers? Yeah, sure, that's a legitimate debate. But look at the whole picture. Look at the teams. Look at the people who are going to work together. That's what's important to me, because not one person is going to change anything. You're only one of 9 people. And you can't fight every battle. Go in there and saying, I'm going to be a team member. I have a couple things I could bring to the table, and I'm going to work to make this a better school district. And I think that's the way people should look at it.
Charles.
Rick just gave a great summary of the whole district. So, I mean, really, there's not much to add there, Sam, because that was a great synopsis of everything going on. I mean, this is a district that the school board has to confront. We talk about all the national education debates right now, just as national politics dictates the mood. But at the end of the day, it's the local concerns that matter and what goes on, especially the issue of safety.
The problem you see, and Michael, you alluded to it before, when they get their bills, they got the county bills now, right? Or that wasn't the school.
Yeah, not school.
When they hit, was it in November is when the
School comes out.
When that tax comes out, okay, and then people say, well, I have no children going to school. I'm retired. You know, it's based on fair. It is low. There's no question about it. But that's what I think you face when, is it fair, and is everyone paying their fair share that are sending their kids to school?
Sammy, we hear that all the time in the office, and let's face it, that's one of the things I think that's causing a division in the community. You know, people coming in, retirees are saying, hey, I don't have children in school, but I see all these people moving into the area, and I'm paying for their children. So I try and soften the blow a little bit by saying that, well, you're receiving Social Security, and they're not, but they're paying in the Social Security system to help you in your retirement. So, you know, taxes aren't always equitable across the board, you know, but the fact of the matter is, you know, we see the headline in the school district the last couple months. There were some people from running for office about the overcrowded kindergartens. No one wants overcrowded kindergartens, but Sammy, everyone has to start learning to play by the rules. If kindergarten registration is September 1st and there's 25 people in the class, you can't have 30 people coming later and saying, why want my children in a class in October, November, and December? Because then you are out of class space and there's nowhere to put these children. If registration cutoff is this date, if your tax returns due April 15th, you file April 16th, there's a 25% penalty. So we all have to play by some set of rules.
Well, that's the problem. When you play by the set of rules, then you become a racist, or you don't want them, you don't want this, et cetera, et cetera. That's the problem sometimes, that, you know, when you're saying, look, this is the way it is. Yeah, but you're picking on me because I'm Italian. You're picking on me because I'm Irish. And this is what walk the mall and talk to people, all ages, okay, disgust, upset, all kinds. So, and you're saying Social Security, yes, but we paid into Social Security all those years, all right? And so what do? Poor seniors, they get wrapped all the time. Not only do they get wrapped in, Mike, but they get lied to. They get lied to. We're going to do this for you. You know, Rendell, your buddy, said he was going to eliminate school taxes. Never did. We hear that of all the politicians. We're eliminating school taxes, make it equitable. I don't know what the solution is. If I run for office, say I'm going to do that, give me a plan. Answer what Lauren said. If you're going to go in there, have something that you could bring to the table, you know, and say, well, this is maybe a solution. But sometimes your hands are tied, and then you're a racist. How do you handle that, Lauren? You live in the city.
Well, I think the power of words and the power of the pen is taken very, very out of context. You can say a sentence and it could be vocally said one way, but you
Exactly.
read it and
Yep.
it's taken in a total another. It's a touchy subject, and
Lauren.
I think people are very sensitive, and they're looking for that as well.
Not because we know you and your family, okay? Your dad does a fabulous job in the city. I think people don't really know the things that he does as far as taking care of the streets, etc. He really does. But you were an excellent councilwoman. Your heart was in the city. Mm-hmm. You worked on different boards. You gave your family up. Your husband was one of the best chiropractors I know. You know, took care of the children, okay? And yet, they came after you and said things that were not proper, okay, and put you through all this kind of aggravation where you just said, look, I have a family to raise. I think that was a total disgrace to take a person like you or anyone who was dedicated to the town and had you withdrawn for that, you know. Do you regret withdrawing from that?
If I did not have, first off, I appreciate that, because that's the first public acknowledgement of actually what's gone on there. I didn't even really receive that type of reception from the panel that was sitting with me currently when that happened. If I did not have children, it would be a very different scenario. People take, you know, freedom of speech, your 3 minutes at the podium. Your 3 minutes does not extend to the giant meat aisle or to the daycare pickup line. There are certain qualms you should stay within. I'm available 24/7. I'm out there, I'm vocal. You could talk to me morning, noon, and night. But when your kids are in the car and there's people tailing you and doing nonsense things because they don't feel their voice is heard, that's where I think things are taken to an extreme level. So unfortunately for people like myself, when you're married and you sit down with your husband and you try to make the best decision, if something would happen because of my decision to be on city council, I would really never forgive myself. But I don't think my life has come full circle where it's totally out of my vision yet, because it keeps finding me.
You know, when I say, yeah, right, when I say I applaud anyone who's running for office, I do. Unfortunately, there are some people that are running it just for ego and their own agendas, as we have all seen throughout the years, okay? And that's the pity, you know, and it just, I wish I had a magic wand, but you know, sometimes I think, well, if you just understand, and if Mike DeCosmo comes and says to me, Charles McElwee, he's running for X, Sammy, you got to give him a vote. Okay, then I could see that Mike has the experience, because I don't know Charles McElwee, and I could see that Mike has that because he gets around. So I could say, all right, being that I didn't check Charles McElwee, I'll vote for him. If Rick Morelli came to me, because Rick's all over the place, okay? I mean, he's involved with different things. So if he says, I say, what about this person before? And he says, Sammy, who is she here? I didn't know that. Okay, so I figure, all right, well, then being that she's not on the Sam Lesante show, being that they don't want to come on and explain what they're all about. I had one person say, I don't need your show, I'm winning anyway. So, well, that's good. What do you stand for? Well, the people know what I stand for. Well, what do you stand for? Okay, so that's where we're at. You know, it's very important. My friends, elections have consequences. Have you gone to the grocery store lately? Have you got your utility bills? Have you gone and put gas in your car? Okay, you see the prices? Elections have consequences. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. This is the pre-election show. Hopefully you'll learn some things about the candidates and know who they are. When we talk about local politics and how important it is, I have on the phone now former mayor of Hazleton, Lou Barletta, former U.S. Congressman Lou Barletta, and we're talking about local elections. And Lou, thanks for taking the time and talking to us tonight. As I mentioned, we have Rick Morelli here, Charles McElwee, Mike DeCosmo, and Lauren Sacco. Lou, in your perspective, how important are local elections, particularly when it comes to school board, mayoral, city council, magistrates, etc.?
Well, Sam, I think they're the most important, actually. I mean, we all care about our national elections. We all care about who's in Washington. But nothing affects our life more than people at the local level. We look at what's happening in our schools around the country. If we want to keep boys from going into girls' bathrooms, if we want to keep boys from not playing girls' sports, then you should pay attention to who's running for your school board. I started out as a city councilman, and I could tell you, serving both at the national level of government and at the local, our local elected officials affect our day-to-day life more than anyone else.
In terms of looking at the quality of the candidates, Lou, okay, it's okay, to vote for a person who is well-liked or comes from a big family, as Mike DeCosmo likes to say. But that doesn't mean anything unless I know who the person is and what do they bring to the table. How important is that in the people that you support, Lou?
Well, it's very, very important. I'm good friends in helping Bob Fume, who's running for supervisor in Hazel Township, but I know him because of what he's done in the past. He served in council in West Hazleton, served as the transportation director. So you have to look at the person's background. You have to look at their experience. You have to look at their temperament. It's not easy being in the political arena, especially, not every day do you do everything right. And people will let you know when you're in your hometown as soon as you do something wrong. So you really need to look at the character of the person, their background, their experience, And if we want to change our country government, if we don't like what's happening, it starts at the bottom and works its way up. That's how we change our country, by making sure we find quality people and we go out and vote.
Does the panel have any questions for Lou or any comments?
Lou, just your new PAC that you formed. I know the entire impetus behind that is to help local candidates. Have you gotten that off the ground, or are you currently involved in this cycle of local elections?
Yes, I am, Mike. Actually, I've been getting involved in local elections, not only here but all throughout northeastern Pennsylvania. I've helped a few candidates down in the southeast as well. And I'm going to continue to go out and look for good people and then help them. And not only can my PAC help them with some financial help, but we can also help with how to run a campaign. A lot of people sit on the sidelines because they've never gotten involved before and they've never run an election before. Where we need to get people off the sidelines, and that's what I'm hoping to do, not only here in the greater Hazleton area, but throughout Pennsylvania.
Rick has a question for you.
Hey Lou, always good to talk with you. Quick question. You've been in politics for many years. You go back to your days in city council. It was a different time running than now. And we talked earlier on the show about social media and how social media has changed elections. And what's your opinion about what the public should look for when you see these smear campaigns, when they try to figure out what's true, what's not, because people are trying to decide who's a good candidate. And unfortunately with social media, people could put whatever they want up there, and it's hard to know what's true or not. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, social media can be a benefit to a candidate, but it can also be the worst nightmare that they've ever faced. And we're seeing that. We're seeing it more and more often, where people can literally lie about you. They could destroy your reputation, and that's sad, because that discourages people, good people, from wanting to get involved. And when you're willing to go that far to lie, to ruin somebody's reputation, I don't think you can put too much merit behind what you're reading on social media. I really don't. I think people need to be very careful in what they read. And sometimes, I remember the Times Leader had I forget what the name of it was. Remember, you can call in and just destroy somebody's reputation.
Say so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're seeing that in social media today.
Yes. Well, Louis, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. I hope you and the family are doing well. Anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I just don't know how you were lucky to get such good people on your show tonight.
Well, it's funny because they don't like you, Lou. It's amazing. You like them, but they don't like you. Anyway, it's always nice talking with you. Good luck. Say hi to Gracie, okay? Thank you.
I will. Thanks,
okay,
Sam.
bye. So I was asked a question. I spoke to Rotary last week, the Pottsville Rotary, and we're starting to air it this week and next week. But one of the questions was, about social media, and the Facebook, et cetera, and how do we play a role? How does the Pottsville Republican Herald and the Standard Speaker, how do we play a role in getting that information? Very simple. When you're here on television, and they're seeing and hearing you. See, they're seeing your expression, and they're seeing they know the body. See, it's not like a sign, Michael. Okay, geez, I see a lot of signs. That means nothing to me. Okay, and there's where social media comes out and just could do, because some people don't like you, and they say these bad things. This magistrate office, district magistrate, District 11-3, whatever the 03 means, I have no idea. But anyway, in the Valley, your comments on that very quickly. We have. I think 4 candidates running.
Yeah, again, real quick, a lot of very good candidates running for this. It's in my backyard. You have Danny O'Donnell, who's the incumbent. You have Worcester Uhas, who's on the school board now. You have Lori O'Gurkis, and you have gentleman who I'm forgetting his name. Martini, who very, very nice guy who came to my door. Qualified candidates in a small area Everyone knows each other. A lot of signs. I think a lot of people are running great campaigns. It's probably one of the campaigns I'll be paying very close attention to. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm actually surprised that there are so many candidates running for this election at this point.
Michael, your experience in the
exact same thing that Rick said. I'm surprised there are 3 other candidates in because Danny O'Donnell's a 4-term incumbent. It's always difficult taking an incumbent down, but I'll tell you, the door-to-door, I don't think I've seen a harder door-to-door campaign by Worcester Yuha, especially on there, but I know Lori O'Gurkis has been doing that, Martini's been doing it, so people putting a lot of time into the election, and it's going to be one of the elections. I can't read the tea leaves. I think it's going to be a real close fight.
You do? Any comment from Charles?
It's an important office. I mean, one where experience and command of the issues in the area are key, and the Valley, just as anywhere else in the area, undergoing change, and the district magistrate has to deal with the changes related to the unforeseen consequences, including public safety and law enforcement related matters.
The West Hazleton Borough Council. That seems to be an interesting race as well. Michael, any comments there?
Yes, some new faces. I think a lot of people are upset with the current majority. You wouldn't have some people, 2 of the newcomers in Tommy Verastro. Verastro name is second to none in the borough. I mean, just a good name. I know I tried to get him involved in politics a couple times. I thought he'd be a great candidate. And the legendary Gene Duffy. I mean, his father, a longtime prothonotary, a lifelong borough resident. So you have 2 newcomers for council. I think you're going to do very well in that race up there.
Yeah. Of course, we have the Sugarloaf Township supervisors. Anything interesting there, or there's a race there with Rick Weaver and Nick LaRock?
Yeah. So you have Rick Weaver, who's an incumbent down there. Good guy who's been there for a while. When you're a supervisor, you go out there, and if you do a lot of, you're out there and you're in the community and you help people, it's hard to get rid of an incumbent. The other gentleman's a very good guy, well known in the area, So we'll see. It's sometimes tough when you know people both, and they're involved, and it's all part of politics. But I applaud both of them for putting themselves out there, and see how that takes place.
As Lou said, local elections. You got the Cunway Borough Council. You have the tax collector, Butler Township Supervisor. Then we come after break. We're going to talk about the calamity, the circus that we have in Luzerne County. It's a circus, my friends. It's a circus.
Wait for the debate between me and Sam.
It's a circus because Mr. Morelli convinced me.
Please, any day you want to debate me on this.
He convinced me that the council was going to be the best thing that ever happened to our county. And I bought it, my friends.
Any day you want to debate me.
It was when Dave Pedri was there, okay? And now it's a circus. We come back, the fun begins. I won't pick on Mike this time. It's going to be Rick Morelli. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, the pre-election special. My guests, Rick Morelli, Charles McElwee, Mike DeCosmo, and Lawrence Sacco. Before we get into our fight with Mr. Morelli, I'd like to mention we have a heavy race in Schuylkill County in the commissioners. We have Mr. Rita Baldina, Barraras, I hope I'm saying that, Bareilles, who are Democrats, and Maria Casey, Jeffrey Dunkel, Dan Evans, George Helkovich, Baron Hetherington, Ray Jones, Mary Jo Moss, and Larry Pedora, all seeking to be the county commissioners. Now, Mr. Morelli.
Yes, Sam.
If you recall, way back when I was 24 years old, we talked about the council where I thought it wasn't a good idea at the time because I thought when you have, it turns into a school board situation, then it becomes political, and you don't have a government that's being run. You were on and you spoke and you brought, it was very, and I said, okay, I agree. And then Dave Pedri took over and he did an excellent job.
Right.
Then the circus began, this falling into the situation that it shouldn't been, and I don't think you're pleased with that. So tell me why these people, I don't know, you tell me.
Well, let's take a step back. So when I talked to you 11 years ago, that was when the commissioners and judges were getting put in jail because of the Kids for Cash, and the people voted for a new government. And then within those 10 years, we took a government that had a deficit of over 400 million to less than 200 million, and now an A+ credit rating within those 10 years. No politics, no hiring of friends or families, because we've taken that out. And part of the reason why it's a circus is now that people could go to meetings at night and they're televised, so you could see the quote-unquote circus. Most municipal authorities don't televise their meetings. It's not open. Before, when the commissioners were there, they had meetings at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Most people couldn't go there because you work usually. So the point of why it's a circus is because it's an open government, transparent. And you have people who come to the meetings. And a lot of times, quite honestly, the reasons why it's a circus is not because of the council. It's because of some of the people who go to the meetings, quite honestly. They create it. Now, to your point with council, it has changed. Again, I think where you're going at with Dave Pedri did a phenomenal job. He was a manager there. And then obviously he left, and they hired someone who was out of town. I think the key right now is, I think what I've seen is they've made that decision that you got to go locally, and you do. You have to have a manager there who understands the area, understands the politics, and right now they got a couple candidates. I think they made a mistake last time not hiring Ramilda, and I think she's the best person for this right now because she knows it, she's been there, and she'll do a great job just like Dave Pedri does. Again, 11 people, 9 people on school board. Listen, it's a lot of people. I didn't support it. I think 7. But the fact is that it goes back to what I said before. If you get good people who work together, who understand it and understand the charter, it's only 63 pages, and you understand the changes in there, it's really not hard to understand. Again, the great thing about council is they don't have a lot of power. Okay, and the problem is now you have council members who want that power. They're like, I want to hire people. No, that's not the way we set it up. We took the power out of those people. So understand the difference between the big picture of the county. The county's in great hands. You got good division heads. Hey, listen, it's tough. You have a lot of very good workers up there who don't make a lot of money. You want to pay the money, you got to raise your taxes. So it's a tough position for council and for people to work there. The government's in very good shape. They're going to hire someone who's good. Keep the TV cameras out, keep some of the people from the public getting up there and grandstanding, and guess what? You won't have a circus.
There you go. See, you just answered all the questions.
But let me make the point.
Forget about everything you know and what we saw and what's happening and the chaos. Rick just said it's fabulous.
Well, when you say chaos,
hey, folks, nothing to worry about.
Chaos is a general word. Yeah. I just mentioned about all the things that are taking place.
What do we know about these candidates who are running? Okay?
Not much.
I know my daughters tried to get a few of them on to come on, but they're always crying poverty. They don't have any money and they're crying, et cetera, et cetera. But they have signs out, Michael. And that gives me the impression that if you have a lot of signs, that makes you qualified to take care of my taxes and everything. We talked about that. Michael, what do you think about that?
Well, especially in the county election, I think Rick will agree with me totally. Signs are a big part of it because no one knows any of these candidates. People are just looking for name recognition. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of these elections are dictated.
That's a point. That's a good point.
You know, are just dictated by signs. But once again, I get back to what I said earlier. You know, I think we have to start thinking more parochially down here. The greatest compliment I ever got from a politician in my life, former Senator John Udicek said, Mike, he said, you know why you're successful? You're a streets guy. He said, you understand the people in the streets. You know what's going on. I think the fact that we have people from Hazleton area running, and we've been in organizations with them, you know, whether it be Unico, whether it be a Little League, you know, and we could go on, Sammy. But if we know what their ilk is about, well, we know what their character's about, then it makes our vote very easy.
I think we got 3 of them from this year. We have
3, yeah.
Yeah, we have Anthony Corrado. Mm-hmm. And we have Richard Tahansky, mm-hmm. and we have Kimberly Platek, that are from this area. Yeah. Okay, and I guess when they send these out, they forgot to put the towns in. Is that right? They forgot to put the municipality.
Well, I hope so, because that was the old Eddie Berminski change on the ballot.
So maybe that's good for us.
Oh yeah, he required, you know, your township, because before that, people just say, well, I'm voting for a person. Now once they see Hazel, I'm voting for Pittston. If I'm Pittston, I'm not voting for someone from Hazleton.
So that's it could work in our favor. Okay, Rick, I hope you're right. Okay, I really do, and it's just sad when I see that, because when you have a majority, as you know, then they try to tell the person who's running what's going on, or that person can lose their job, you know, and it shouldn't be that way.
Well, and really, if you understand the charter, council can't get involved with government, and it upsets some of the council members who don't understand it. Again, their role is legislative. They cannot interfere with day-to-day operations, and that's what's one of the nice things about it. So listen, if people really understood it, and I'd be glad to come on your show any day and have a debate with anybody and talk about it. It's working. Is it perfect? It's not perfect. But going back to the 3 commissioners, it would not be a good thing.
Okay. Tell that to Schuylkill County. Now, Michael, good point. About if I saw your name on a sign, oh, I know who he is. But you see, remember you know the person, and that sign reminds you of that. But if you don't know that person, then what do you know about him? Lauren, we got about 3 minutes left. In conclusion, what do you think about the election? What do you think about what people should be doing, thinking, etc., to make it a better community?
People need to step up and use their voice and make their vote count. No longer can you sit back and sit by and just let bygones be bygones and whatever is to be. If you want to see a change, it comes down to the people here and making sure you get out and use your voice.
So you think you're going to get back into the race and doing something? You think you get back into politics and run for something?
The country's insane right now. Unfortunately, at this moment,
I just heard your husband fall off his chair. I just heard Scott fall right off his chair.
Whatever's in my cards, God puts you where you're supposed to be, and right now, this is where I'm at.
Michael, what do you think?
Sam, I think, to allude to Rick's point earlier, I think we also have to look at that city council. We have to look at West Hazleton Borough Council, school board meetings. We can't let the animals take over the zoo. Mm-hmm. When I read what goes on in the city council meetings, school board meetings especially, where it's not about what was talked about in terms of education or building programs or expanded support, it's a picture of people who get up at the microphone looking for their 3 minutes of fame, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of the public is buying into. We have to get back to talking issues. We have to get back to having the best people who we chose as voters running the institutions.
Good point. Charles?
What Lauren just pointed out, if you were to run again, that's the tragedy. What Lauren summarized, that's the tragedy of our local politics. People who are genuinely invested and care about this community have to face the culture that we live in, the censoriousness of it, the fact that there is this stranglehold on freedom of expression. People who would love to run for office but have to live in fear of the social media age and the cruelty of it. And that's the tragedy that we confront. And I'm rather pessimistic about the state of local affairs, state affairs, and national if that trend continues.
Rick, you got a 30 seconds.
I would just ask the people that if you're going to go vote, do as much homework as you can on the candidates and understand them to make qualified decisions. If you don't do that and you're just going to go vote and you're going to possibly vote for people who aren't good, I'd rather see you not vote, to be honest, because it wouldn't be good to put people in who don't have good agendas. High turnout's not always good if you're not doing your homework.
Well, I want to thank you, Rick, for coming on the show. Charles, McElwee, thanks for coming on the show. Always a pleasure to see you. Michael and Lawrence, nice to have you. It's a pre-election show, my friends. Know the candidates. It's very important. They affect your life. Elections have consequences. We'll see you next time.